Americans? What's going on here? What's going on here? All right. So in the preceding days, we have talked about England establishing its dominance, near dominance in North America. All right. They've got colonies all the way up to Massachusetts, ranging all the way down to just north of Florida to Georgia. Okay, the Dutch had a little foothold here in New Amsterdam. The Duke of York came in, and now we have New York. All right. What else? What else? The French are still doing their thing. They are north of Massachusetts. Parts of New York and parts of Maine and whatnot, and that's part of Quebec, which is a French territory, French colony, which they are using to spread trade and everything like that. Okay, why are we doing all of this? We're doing it to make money, as I have said many, many times before. And it actually goes a little bit different for the English, okay? Yeah, the colonies are having a chance to be part of a representative government, have free religion, to make some money on their own. But for the English, okay, the British, they are looking at this at a whole different level. They're looking at it at a much larger scale, all right? They're down with this thing known as mercantilism, okay, mercantilism. And it's basically the idea or an economic practice in which nation is entirely self-sufficient. This means that if a nation needs any kind of resource, it doesn't have to go to another country to get that resource. It has it on its own. The United States, when they're going, and you'll learn about this in American too, when we are doing our bit of expanding out west and everything, late 1800s, early 1900s, we will be in a situation where we have kind of a mercantile economy going on here as well. Because if they need coal for steel, they need iron ore to make steel, okay? If they need timber to make bridges, it's all right here. We don't have to go to England to get any resources. And during this time period, England is the exact same way. We need more lumber to build ships. Not a problem. Send something over to North America, they'll cut down trees and they'll bring all the timber back that you need. We need a certain type of dye that we can't get. Not a problem. North America's making all that indigo, bring it on over. Life is good, okay? And as a result of this kind of relationship, the British are really only going to view North American colonies as being good for raw materials. You guys are over there doing your thing, and as long as you're giving us all the raw materials that we need and you're not competing with us, okay, in terms of selling stuff, then you guys are good people and you guys can go about your own business. Whereas in North America, we're thinking to ourselves, yeah, we're doing our thing. We're becoming teenagers. We are, are spreading our wings and learning how to survive. We got the hard stuff figured out, okay? Now we're starting to get some economic prosperity. And once you get into economics, things get ugly, all right? So this idea of mercantilism is great business for England, okay? They get to import a whole lot of raw materials at no to low cost, all right? They get to make manufactured products, finished products, and they get to sell those all around the world. So if I'm a chair manufacturer in England, I'm happy because I can get raw materials at a low cost to me, make these chairs and sell them at a super high markup. Life is good all the way around. England's happy because they're collecting taxes and all this stuff. Now, while all this is going on, okay, the Americans, the colonists over here, they're not dumb, okay? They recognize that, dang, we could make more money if we traded with another country, all right? We could make more money if we were selling stuff down to the Spanish there in Florida or the Dutch over there. Well, they're not here anymore, but, going over to Amsterdam and selling stuff, even selling stuff with the French. And the English, to a degree, are going to turn a blind eye, all right? They recognize that smuggling is going to happen. They recognize that they're going to have some loss of products somewhere along the way. And in their mind, they're like, as long as that number is low, is at a tolerable level, okay, then we will let it go. It's okay. It's not really hurting us. It's not infringing upon our ability to make a profit. Once the colonists cross that line, however, England steps in, slaps him on the wrist. Well, more than just a slap on the wrist, more like a punch in the stomach, okay, with the passage of the Navigation Acts, all right? And the Navigation Acts aren't just one simple law. It's a series of laws, okay, that really put control on who can trade with the colonies, how the colonies conducts their business with other colonies, and with England as a whole, okay? The idea behind these things, okay, is to make sure that England is getting its piece of the pie. The craziest of all of these laws, okay, yeah, we've got to have at least 3/4 British or colonial sailors on any ship selling goods to the colonies, selling goods out of the colonies. Goods need to be shipped on need to be shipped on either British ships or colonial ships. The French can't send a ship to North America to pick up lumber, okay, and sail it back to France. If the French want to buy lumber from North America, the colonies, they will have to use a colonial ship, which has 3/4 British crew, or use a British ship, okay, to do just that. So it's really kind of, designed to help keep England very prosperous. But the craziest one of all of these things, and the one that's going to really get the colonies kind of pissed off, is the idea that trade between the colonies must first go through an English port, okay? So I'm a chair maker in North America, and I only sell chairs, to my local folks down in Pennsylvania. Normally, I would just put these chairs on a boat, send them down to Pennsylvania. They're there in 2 days, okay, in less than a week's time period. Now, all of a sudden, I have got to produce my chair, ship it to England, okay? England then turns around and ships it back to North America, 3 weeks out, 3 weeks back, okay? It's taken me 2 months to get my goods down there and make money. It's ridiculous, okay? It's absolutely ridiculous. And what are the colonists going to do? They're going to do what they've always done, okay, in situations such as this. Yes, England, we understand. We're going to do what you need to do. But off to the side, okay, they got their side hustle going on. They got their side business going on. They're going to smuggle goods from various ports up in New England, various ports in Pennsylvania, various port cities throughout the colonies, okay, to wherever it needs to go. Again, the British are going to recognize this, and they're going to do stuff to stop it, and they will have some limited success with it, okay? What happens as a result is that the colonists become very, very good sailors, and they build these very small, very fast, very sleek ships. We're not moving tons and, thousands of tons of goods, illegally. We're moving a couple tens of tons of goods, all right? So that's what's going to happen. Also, during this time period, some folks are going to start getting really grumbly about what's happening with this whole, this Navigations Act thing, primarily in Massachusetts. That's where all the hotheads were during this time period, okay? There were some in Pennsylvania, too, and other colonies, but Massachusetts is the center of all of this dissent against England. They're going to start talking about, man, we have our rights over here, and England's really not listening to us and our rights. And they start doing what any teenage does once they get their driver's license or gets that first job and that first paycheck. They're like, I'm a man. I should be able to do what I want to do, okay? Well, like any teenager, okay, that goes a little bit too far for their parents' good, okay? Oh, you a man right now, huh? Okay, that kind of a thing. England is going to put the slap down on them. All right, they're going to totally put the slap down on them. And what the king is going to do, King Charles II is going to do, he is going to revoke the charter. Now let's go back and remember, all right, we had the Puritans that came first, the Pilgrims. The Mass Bay Company is going to start second, all right. Now each one of these colonies, original colonies, all right, are going to have these conventions, but these general meetings where the average person who is a part of that colony, okay, has a chance to come together and help decide the fate of the colonists, okay? Eventually, Massachusetts Bay Company will take over pretty much all of Massachusetts, all right? And all these other colonies are doing their own thing. England is going to say, no, not anymore. No longer are you a Massachusetts colony, a Rhode Island colony, and a Connecticut colony. You are all one colony, okay? And you are your colony's name now is the Dominion of New England. And I'm going to have one person that is in control of everything. I'm essentially appointing a dictator, okay, a mini monarch, to look over this colony, okay? And what this mini monarch says is exactly what I would be saying, even though I'm several hundred miles away, okay? Just assume that it's coming out of my mouth. And it's not going to do the king very good here in New England. Now, fortunately for the New Englanders, okay, yes, King James is not very popular, and I just jumped ahead of myself, okay? I'm just going to jump to where I am. King James is not going to be very popular amongst the colonists in New England, okay? He's come across with this one guy by the name of Edmund Andros, who's going to set up some really strict policies, okay? And some of these policies are going to be banning those community meetings that the folks used to have, and they could talk politics and figure out what's best for the colony, okay? So the local meetings are now going to be restricted. Heavy enforcement of the Navigation Acts. Yes, maybe once in a while you could sneak something here and there, and I was going to turn a blind eye. No more of that stuff, okay? And then he's going to question their religion. You guys are Puritans, ain't you? Well, I don't think Puritanism is legit religion, all right? Andros is Catholic, all right? So the Catholics and the Protestants have been going at it in England for years, okay? Ever since the king broke away and formed the English church, the Anglican church, been going at it, all right? So we've got all this craziness going on. The colonists are not going to like Andros. They're not going to like the king all that much. Over in England, okay, they're not going to like the king all that much either. And for a lot of the same reasons. One, he's a Catholic, okay? We're all Anglicans. We're all Protestants. We don't necessarily want to be down with this whole Catholic thing, this Roman Catholic thing, all right? And he is going to take power away from Parliament, the governing body, all right? He's like, no, the power's all mine. I don't need, no. When he starts doing this, okay, the English people are going to be like, oh, that's how it's going to be. They're going to go over to Amsterdam. They're going to talk to the king over there and say, hey, you've got some bloodlines over here. How would you and your wife like to rule England? And the king is going to say, frigadiggy, I always wanted to expand my power source. I'll do this, okay? And so, you know, I won't go into all of the details behind this whole thing, all right? But we have what is known as the Glorious Revolution. The Glorious Revolution. Also a bloodless revolution, okay? I guess that's why it was so glorious. But they are going to depose the king. They are going to set up a new king, and this new king is going to sign this charter that's going to give all sorts of powers back to the parliament, and things will be great, all right? In my civics class, we talk about it in more depth. I've got a link to a video if you need to find out, or if you want to find out more information about the Glorious Revolution, okay? But the Glorious Revolution is going to have all sorts of ramifications and implications and all these great things that are going to happen in England as a result. But what about over in the colonies, Mr. Johnson? What's going to happen in North America? Good question. A very good question. Well, the first thing that's going to happen is the colonists are going to do what colonists do, and they're going to get rid of Andros, okay? You're done. Bye-bye. Sayonara. Out of here, okay? The next thing that's going to happen is the new king is going to be like, this Dominion of England, psh, forget about it. All of you colonies, you get your old charters back. Go ahead and do things as you've been doing in the past. And folks are going to be like, this is good. We liked what we were doing in the past, okay? Now, as the king, I got to say that there's a royal governor, okay? You have your royal governor, but you can still have your own individual legislative bodies. And the folks are like, this is cool. We can work with this, all right? Very close to what we had beforehand, all right? And you guys, by the way, you can't prosecute Quakers and members of the Anglican Church anymore. And they're going to be like, yeah, we like persecuting them and discriminating against them, but we'll make this exception, okay? We'll make this exception. So things are going to go fairly good, all right? And what's going to make it even better for the colonies is that around this time period, the British and the French are going to get into a little bit of an economic tussle, okay? Economic tussles usually end in some sort of armed conflict, all right? But England is focusing more attention on France than the colonies during this time period. Well, heck, remember, they just supply stuff to us. That's okay. Do they smuggle a little bit? Yeah, they smuggle a little bit, all right? And so we go into this one period of statutory neglect, 1690s to the 1760s, where essentially England is more focused on what's happening over near than the colonies. And they're saying, colonies, as long as you keep giving us goods, okay, or sending us goods, and treat us as your primary economic focus, don't step outside the lines, and you'll be okay. You can have a little smuggling on the side. You can have a little this on the side, a little that on the side. Remember, we are number one, and we are your primary focus, all right? So during this time period, the colonies are going to prosper. They get to trade as they want to trade, okay, within the colonies, and they're doing their thing back and forth with England. Do folks recognize that England is getting richer off than, the merchants here in North America? Yeah, they recognize that. But you know what? I'm still making some money, all right? I'm still making some money, so life is good for me. I can keep moving forward with this. Now, again, this idea of statutory neglect is going to be really dependent upon the relationship between the colonies and England, in that as long as the colonies are making money for England, England's going to let it roll, okay? England is going to let it roll. The other cool thing about statutory neglect, remember those governors that came back in that I talked about 2 seconds ago, okay? Those governors are not being paid by Parliament. Those governors are being paid by the colonists, okay? They're being paid by the colonists. This means that when the colonists, an organized group of colonists have a grievance against the king and they want to see that this information makes it to Parliament and makes it to the king's attention, okay, they can just put a little cash in his pocket, all right, and he will act in the interest, more or less, of the colonist. You want me to talk to the king in Parliament? Not a problem. I can do that. Oh, great. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you doing this thing. Yeah, but before I can go over to England, I need a new coat. My coat's not looking so good, and I need to bring my wife, and she needs a new dress. And they're like, all right, how much is it going to cost? Here you go. Here you go. And it works, okay? The governor gets fat with his little corrupt self, all right? The colonists are getting their voices heard to a greater degree, okay? And everybody seems to be making money. Except we get a few folks that are thinking, man, yeah, we're making money, but think about how much money we could be making if we didn't have to focus on England as our number one economic concern. What if we decided to sell all this great cotton directly to France? Yeah, we could make all sorts of money. What if we decided to sell all this great timber that we had to Germany? Yeah, then we could be making real good money. And once that starts happening, once the colonists step out and see that England, and view England as not its number one economic concern, but view themselves as their number one economic concerns, that's when things go south really quick, okay? Really quick. England doesn't like that, and they're going to tell the colony in uncertain terms, and no uncertain terms. Well, when are they going to do that, Mr. Johnson? When are they going to do that? They're going to do that on Thursday, the day after the test, all right? All right, that's all I have for this stuff right here and right now. We have gone to the part where